So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And I took a few minutes to try and calm down, but it just wasn't working. That was hopeless. It was hapless. It was unorganized. And to be honest with you, it was one of those downright scared yet arrogant performances that Villa throw up every so often. And I'm not having it. And usually I come on here with try and bring a bit of context to it and try and, you know, pick the positives from something like that. But unfortunately, look, every man is his point where he can't do it. And today I can't do it. Can't do it. There was some absolutely rabidly shite performances out there from Aston Villa players. And we will pat them on the back when they deserve it. But in a moment like that, and in a game like that, ain't no one getting a pat in the back from me, and I know they don't care, and I know that most people here will have a good laugh at this, probably overreaction that I'm having at the moment, or I will probably have at times as I build myself up in this podcast. But some players out there just did not have a clue what it meant to be like, or what it meant to be in an FA Cup final. I said at the outset, that I wanted to attack from the first minute. I wanted to attack this game early. And the absolute opposite is what happened in the first 15, 20 minutes of the game. It was shocking. So much like for the crowd gave a great account of themselves, and the players looked like they were there because they got free tickets on both sides. On both sides. It was useless. It was a rubbish game of football. It was a game of football whereby, you know, if you were sitting down watching for the first time, you go, how can anyone fall in love with this? And then Eze scores a goal out of nowhere. And Villa have no second gear. They had no second gear. All they wanted to do was pass it around in front of this magnificent bank of 5 or 4 or whatever you have in the middle of midfield that Crystal Palace had. Really annoying. Really annoying performance. And I sat here in the team sheet tantrum in the preview, and I rattled off all these big days that Villa had, and I come back to that they nearly had against Paris Saint-Germain, and you know that they took the game to teams in the Champions League this year. And Crystal Palace just always come and they yank our pants down and they piss in our underwear. That's what they do, because they are a team that just have our number. They've got some very, very good players. And we have players there that just did not show up on the day. I said at the start about Pau Torres and Tyrone Mings, and I didn't want it to turn into a Mings versus Pau or a Pau versus Mings thing. But how like when Pau Torres can't pass the ball out of defense, he's very fallible to mistake. And not even a mistake, but he's just fallible just having the ball passed him behind him. You know, slow. He was incredibly slow today. And they knew that. And they could put us out. And you know, both their goals are the first 2 goals, should I say, they were shots from out far. But, like, you know, Tyrone Mings tries to charge those down. Pau Torres runs back towards the goals when they're taken. Both of those. And you know, I'm as I said, there is no excuses today for performances, so and I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because I really like this semi-final. I said at the start it was an opportunity for Villa to put their hat in the ring and to say we are going to upset the apple cart of the top 6, and we didn't. We didn't do it. We didn't meet the moment. Yuri Tielemans dispossessed twice in midfield. No one talking to him. The second dispossession was a shocker. And yes, people may say it was a foul, but a guy runs from about 15 yards back and takes the ball off Yuri Tielemans. Simple pass into Ismail Assar, who just waltzes in past Torres and Konsa. Job done. Pass it into the back of the net. 3-0. Like, what are we doing? Like, what were we doing in that instance? What were we doing? I'm not going to be able to formulate an awful lot of good thoughts today. I'm not going to be able to formulate a lot of coherent thoughts today because I'm just so annoyed. I don't get embarrassed from performances. I never use the word embarrassing, or if I have, I didn't mean to use it, and I take it back. I never use the word embarrassing for performances because I wasn't out in the field today. I'm never going to be good enough, and I know that goes without saying. So I'm never going to be embarrassed by a performance, but I can be damn right annoyed sometimes, and this one has really annoyed me. Really annoyed me. We've had a fantastic season of so many highs, and this is the one where I'm as low as a snake's belly after that. I really am. Because what is the point in getting to a semi-final if you let it trickle down your leg like it did there today? And I know I'm being harsh, and I know I'm speaking really sharp-tongued, and I'm using silly analogies and everything like that, but it's not every year you have an opportunity to win an well, it is every year you have an opportunity to win an FA Cup, but it's not every year you get into the semi-final, have an opportunity to get into the final, and that final gives you the opportunity. And we just didn't hit the mark. We never showed up today. Never showed up. I don't know. It's an annoying one. It's like all these players will get the praise, and they have got the praise, and they absolutely deserve praise for performances they've had, but they deserve a bit of ire for today. And I'm not going to stay on too long. I'm going to stand another couple of minutes because I just wanted to kind of get out. Like in the pre-match and in the team sheet tantrum, we had a lot. I was very passionate about it. I would have loved to be in Wembley today. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have loved to be in Wembley today at halftime. So whoever was sitting beside me wouldn't have loved for me to be there at halftime, because at halftime the writing was on the wall. We had it and I know I'm singling out Pau Torres today for this. It's not solely his fault, but just in this moment of this consulate kind of dejection that I have at the minute, he probably should have been replaced at halftime. The game was miles past him, completely. And he was the fulcrum. He was the person who the ball was going to more often than not to pass it. And his passes were not affecting. They were not affecting the game in any way, shape, or form. They just weren't. Kamara ran around. Kamara was trying to plug so many holes because we just didn't have that. Asensio as well. Sorry, let me, as I said, it's not going to be anywhere coherent. But Asensio's tracking back was non-existent. He was a non-factor in the game whatsoever. Non-factor, and that midfield will take you to task if you've got a non-factor in midfield, and he was that non-factor for us. For Eze's goal, he was tracking back. He gets back late. I don't know what his detail was, whether he was supposed to be playing as a 10 or an 8 or where he was supposed to be playing, but very much being carried for a while, in that instance. And Kamara was trying to plug gaps left, right, and centre, and he ended up giving away a penalty, which they missed. He ended up being out of position himself 9 times out of 10. He was over on the left-hand side for the first goal when the ball comes across to Eze. He's trying to cover Pau Torres because Torres runs back towards his own goal when the ball is back to Eze, and Kamara comes across and tries to cut out. He's actually gone past Eze at that stage. And we've no one in midfield. Our spacing in midfield was completely off for that goal. Second goal then was Ismail Assar. Of course, he always has the game of his life against us. Scores 2 and has an assist. Second, he pings one in from outside the box. Tielemans robbed in the middle of midfield. Tielemans gets robbed there, and they bear down on both our centre halves, and we have no answer. No answer to it. Third goal, very much the same. Robbed. And the third goal was a sickener. And I know we were 2-0 down and we weren't likely to come back. But the third goal, the guy, I can't remember who it was that robbed the ball. Was it Nketiah? I think it was Nketiah. Nketiah runs from 15 yards and there's no way Tielemans was getting shouted at to say that there was someone on, because he had no idea. And yes, people will say it's a foul, and maybe it was, but it wasn't given. And the fact that this guy runs from 15 yards, dispossesses Tielemans, passes it into Ismail Assar, and and he scores, to me, is not good enough. It's not good enough. And I don't really know what much more to say. This is where I'd love to have a co-host here, so that I could get I could try and formulate stuff here. I could bounce off what they're saying, but I don't. And this one is an annoyance. It really is an annoyance for me, this game. And Villa have to pick themselves back up. We've had results go against us in the league today. Chelsea 1-0 win against Everton. Newcastle have a man sent off in a penalty in the first half. That's all I saw. They were 1-0 up, but don't even know what it finished, but I presume they won. I don't know. But Crystal Palace, like much and all, as I've said here, and I've given out about Aston Villa, that's what, as this podcast is an Aston Villa podcast, Crystal Palace were by far the better team. Absolutely deserved that. Absolutely deserved it. They were never under pressure. They hunkered down. There was a couple of instances. There was one where John McGinn had the ball saved. There was Dean Anderson had 2 good saves to make. That was about it. But they hunkered down. They caught us on the break like they've done for the last 3 years. That's all they've had to do. Weather a storm for 10, 15 minutes. Catch us in midfield or ball over the top. Mateta outworks one of our centre halves. Both of them get drawn in together to him. And next thing, all of a sudden, one of the 2 wide men are running through, whether it be Eze or whether it be Ismail Assar. And that's been the blueprint that the Crystal Palace have. And they've never deviated from it. Sure, why would they? They score at will against Aston Villa. And you think that in a semi-final it might be different, and it wasn't. And that's why I'm as annoyed today as I am. I've seen this movie before. I've seen the movie I saw right there before. And I knew the ending. And that's the thing that annoys me the most. The spoiler for the ending was evident on whatever, the 15th, 20th minute, whenever Eze scored. And it's never a nice place to be in a game of football. And I have to say, look, substitutions were weird enough substitutions as well. I thought Bailey did well when he came on. Barkley passed 1 or 2 out over the line. I thought Onana was probably the man to bring on at some stage there. Daniel Mallon comes on, 10 minutes to go. It was probably a substitution I would have made a small bit earlier. But it's just really frustrating. A really, really, really frustrating game. A really frustrating game. Indeed. I am so sorry I haven't come to anybody's comments. I'm going to try and read a couple off the bottom of the deck here, because I know a couple of you guys, because I appreciate that there's 1,000 people watching here, and I want to appreciate that by reading some comments. Where are we? Sorry, no. Of course, then as I do this, my chat seems to act up. Ilmatic, pass, and then pass, and all of them in a straight line across the field, or only 5 yards forward and backwards again, and that's fine. I've no problem doing that. But the impetus, the energy, the want to get back from 2 goals down. When you do that, do the other team really kind of fear that you're going to just spring into action every so often? I don't think they did. I don't think they ever did. I don't think at any stage there in that game, the Crystal Palace were like, oh God, these guys are ready to spring into action. No, they were like, so what are we going to do? What are they going to do? They have 9 men to break down. How are they going to break them down from their own half? And it didn't happen. It's weirdly strange how that happens. There's I don't know why somebody on the field doesn't break from process. If it is process, I don't know why. It boggles my mind. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission in a situation like that. What is what is the point in passing yourself into a 3-0 loss? And look, I know, I know why they don't do it, but it still boggles my mind. And it's the difference. And the reason they don't do it is the difference is why we're Sunday League players and they're Premier League professional superstars is the reason, because 90% of professional footballers will be able to follow instruction way better than your average Sunday League guy. That is a fact. People can debate me on that all they want. I know that's a fact. And they'll be able to implement the game plan properly and at the tempo that's needed. But sometimes you just love for something to just happen. Somebody goes, right, lads, screw this. Something needs to happen here. And you often hear about that, the big tackle, a cross comes in and the fella goes through 5 people to try and get his head in the ball and it just raises the crowd. There's no real moment like that today. It's semi-final of a cup. No real moment of that today. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm annoyed. When you'll see Neil annoyed is when I'm frustrated from early out in a game where I can't see where something is going to change, just because of the mindset, the makeup, and I suppose how the game is flowing. Like, it's difficult to go through the gears when you're trying to break down nine men, and that's why Villa needed to start quickly, and they didn't, and they played into Crystal Palace's hand. And when Palace got the first goal, it was always going to be very difficult, and it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been difficult, because Villa should have been dictating the play. They should have been dictating the pace of the game. As I said before, they should have taken the game to Crystal Palace early. They should have known. They should have leaned upon their big game experience this year, but they didn't. Palace got that goal. Palace grew in confidence, and I don't know. A couple of people saying Kamara was lucky on cards. I think so. Yeah. I think they were. Do you know what? Look, I know the comments are going to hop, and I'll probably get DMs about it, and I'll probably get abusive DMs like I do quite often. But I have to say, Ollie Watkins was a complete and utter stranger to any other Aston Villa today, because they could not get the ball next nigh or near him. There was a couple of times he had to run the channels in the first half, all right. The second half, couldn't get the ball anywhere near him because we were out of ideas. We didn't have any route through the middle at all. And we went out to the side, and we were all we were doing was going and trying to cut the ball back with 6 people in the box. And there was no opportunity to get a ball to our striker today. And that's what happened after the first goal, because they were able to pack that middle, and they were able to stop us and go around the side of us. And they weren't committing their fullbacks further forward, like I said they would do, in the initial part of the pod, or in the team sheet tantrum. And they weren't committing them forward because they didn't need to. They didn't need to. They backed themselves. We made like Chris Richards works well in that system, but is an average footballer. A very average footballer, and we couldn't capitalize on that. He was on a yellow card. Tariq Mitchell was on a yellow card today, and we barely ran at Mitchell all right in the second half, but all he needed to do was just jockey him to the outside, because he knew that if he walked in, if he tried to get into the box, there was 6 people waiting for him inside there. And that's the power of what an early goal can do, especially against a team as well drilled as an Oliver Glasner team. That's annoying. That's really annoying, because we have to wait until January next year again for the FA Cup. There won't be any silverware coming back to Villa Park this year. And as I said before, to break the stranglehold, or to break into and be taken seriously by that top 6, Aston Villa need to start winning silverware. Right. Couple more comments there as well, guys, and then I'm going to leave it at that, because I can see that my beloved Cleveland Browns have made a whopper of a selection in the NFL draft that I need to go and rinse my mind out of Aston Villa tonight, and I need to dissect that in a moment. So thanks so much. I'd say summer transfer window should be interesting. You have plenty of scouting pods. I know I haven't gotten to one about the Norwegian young guy, but I'm off all next week. I plan to do a fully devoted podcast on the redevelopment of Aston Villa, the North Stand. I'm actually hoping to have an architect on that podcast. If I can get them, I'll do it. If I can't, I don't feel confident enough to do it on my own. It's been nearly 20 years since I've been involved in stuff like that. I will do one on the Norwegian guy, and I'm not ready to do scouting podcasts. I wanted this season to be much more than just looking forward to our Christmas Eve or our Christmas week, which is the transfer window, and I wanted it to be more than that, and I'm not in the mindset really to do that, but I will do one on the Norwegian guy during this week as well. CC says, you'll see, Neil, we all agree with you. Appreciate the therapy session. I presume that's about the comments there, that I couldn't come to some of the comments, or I didn't come to some of the comments. So I do apologize, guys, because I think we're coming up on nearly 600 comments in there as well. There's nearly 1,200 of you there too. David Dwyer, I promise, I agree with you, should I say. Passing the ball is fine, but do it quicker. That's where we are at the moment. The passing was stale. It was telegraphed today. Like, the passes into Tielemans were telegraphed. After a while, they knew, okay, Pau Torres is having to go along with all these passes. What they're going to need to do is go into Tielemans. And we went into the middle of Tielemans. He was literally the only person who was able to get a foothold on the ball. And that's where they gave him the foothold on that ball and moved 6 people back behind the ball. And then it was a case of, it allowed the likes of Nketiah to get a run on him, dispossess him. And I think Mateta was the other person who dispossessed. So if your central striker, that boils my piss. If your central striker is going to run and dispossess the number 6 in midfield, and your 2 centre halves are going to look at him and not communicate, that's an issue. Communication has to be an issue, and I'm shaking my camera all over the place here. So I think it's that's it. I'm going to have to watch back those. I'm not watching the full game back again. I don't have enough blood pressure. I'm not even on blood pressure tablets, but I need to watch that again. But I'm going to watch those incidents back again, the first 5 minutes before each of those, because it has to be a bait and switch trick that the Crystal Palace had in both those instances to allow Tielemans all the space in the world to constrain and strangle the attack up top, so that he was looking around for options, and then the striker just peels off. And when he does that, then Eze and Ismail Assar are like trains coming through to both descend down on our 2 centre halves and make it really, really difficult for Villa then to do anything. And it's a simple tactic. It's a really simple tactic. I have to look back to see if that was the case for both of those, because I'm only about 70% sure that it was the central striker that won the ball in both those instances. But yes, I agree with you. Paddy says Cash is the weak link. I don't agree with it in this game. I know a lot of people say it was. I think there was a lot of weak links in this game today, but I know you'll have a lot of people in the comments there that will agree with you that everybody Cash needs to be upgraded in the off season. But I don't think it was solely the weak link there today at all. I think our back line was decidedly poor, as was our midfield. And if our back line, if our centre half Pau Torres is poor, and if our midfield duo is poor, well, then we're not going to get anything moving forward. And likewise, we saw Asensio was a non-event. We saw Morgan Rogers wasn't able to do anything with the ball, and you know, we couldn't get the ball within a 10-yard radius in the second half of Ollie Watkins, and that's really disappointing. That's really disappointing. Right, guys, I think I'm going to leave it at that, because I'll only start repeating myself again. Apologies for the lack of coherency. I hope you guys got something out of this, because I don't feel as angry anyway as I did when I first came on. But Villa have to get back up on the horse really, really quickly. We've got 4 big games coming up to end this season. We can still get Champions League football, but whether we do or not after that performance today is anybody's guess. But there better be pain coming off the inside of the dressing room after that performance. You know, players won't enjoy watching that one back, and I certainly won't be watching it back, because I won't enjoy it. But thanks so much, everybody, for your time. It's about 1,300 people here listening to me here in Ireland rant and rave and use silly analogies with childish analogies about how Aston Villa played today. But listen, thanks a million for indulging me, and we will be back. I will be back with a couple of podcasts, probably more podcasts than I normally do over the course of this week. So please watch out, and listen, we can only put our hope and our trust in Emery. We'll get this right, and that the players will come back in the right mindset from this to finish off our season in the league. Because we still have everything to play for within the league, but it all depends on what way our mindset is from here on out. So thanks very much, everybody. See you over the course of the week. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say.